Welcome back once again, everybody. I'm Dean from iProgress, and today we're going to be talking to you about some of the worries and fears that we all had when starting a PhD program. I'm telling you these now in hindsight purely because I don't want you to have the same worries and thoughts in the back of your head all the way through years 1, 2, and even 3. And I firmly believe that if you think about these, digest them, and try your best to recognize and overcome them early on, it will really set you on that ideal trajectory to be really successful in your PhD. So before we jump into those tips, as always, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and let me know in the comments section what your initial worries were when either starting a PhD, or if you're looking to start a PhD soon, what your current worries are, and hopefully I can give you some hints and tips in those comment sections in the replies. So let's jump in to worry number 1, which on my sheet is that you are an imposter. Okay, academics, and I kind of guess everyone to a certain degree, feels that they can be an imposter in their job. You know, as we progress, we oftentimes work above our means. You know, we don't get fully educated on all of the little niche tricks and hints and even exactly what we're expected from a particular role. So when we step into that new role, be it going down a PhD program or a master's program, or you're an early career academic in your first lectureship position, we always start to feel like we don't belong here. We feel like we're not ready. And that's really common. So it's okay to have doubts, okay? Everybody has these doubts, but it's how you react and respond to those doubts which is really the crux here. So as we all know, imposter syndrome is rife. It's where you feel that you don't belong in a certain position. And I'm here today to tell you that you do belong here. You know, there's lots of rigorous proceedings that happen to accept a student onto a PhD position. Okay, and that's both looking at your proposal to make sure it is at that level 8 standard. It is to a degree whereby you can really make an impact in the field. It's also to check that you're the right person to be doing that PhD program. And now we're going to be talking in a video in a couple of weeks' time about, are you the right person to go down a PhD route? Believe it or not, it's not for everybody. And some people might benefit from taking a step back and going down a particularly different route. However, if you have shown that passion and drive to do a PhD, you've sat through that interview process, you've written your structure, your program of work for the next 2, 3, 4 years, and your prospective supervisors, your director of study, and your whole package of educators, they've decided that you are ready to start a PhD now, then that burden is placed on them and not you. You've already evidenced that you are the correct person to do this job. And also, by simply Googling to try and find this video on YouTube, you've also shown that you are able to acknowledge some of these fears. Okay, and that's an excellent first step to saying, not only am I kind of conscious about them, I'm also trying to do something about those worries as well. So you're not an imposter. You can definitely smash this upcoming program of study, and I wish you the best of luck. So moving on to worry number 2, PhD students, especially if you're on social media, you will get this kind of emphasis from other academics that you're expected to work all day, every day. You're expected to work weekends. There's no flexibility, and your principal investigator, your director of studies, will be really drilling you to make sure that you're at your desk all the time and you are reading and you're writing. Now, of course, there's a huge emphasis to get that work done. Okay, we all know that this is not a small undertaking and it's going to take a lot of hard, dedicated work, but you do have that time. And in fact, not only are you not really expected to work beyond those means, evenings and weekends, but equally, you're expected, at least in my lab, to take time away. You know, if you're burning out in your first or second year, then how do I hope to have an academic under my supervision who can really smash their viva? Okay, who can really write a substantial piece of work which is both impactful and powerful. Okay, so make sure you're booking those holidays. Make sure you're treating your PhD like a job where you can step away for a week or 2. Okay, have that downtime, relax, consolidate that information, spend that time with family and friends. It's all really important. And I think that You'll have heard hopefully in our podcast, but I'll link it down below. Episode 2, we talk about the pervasive growing impact of poor mental health in academia. And I think that a lot of that stems from academics, early career researchers, PhD students feeling that they have to work all around the clock. Now, will you get more work done? Yes, in the short term, but in the long term, you will be burning out. You'll have to take authorized breaks of study, authorized leave, because of that burnout. In my mind, working consistently, taking those little dips, taking that time off, and then getting back to it over a month, over 6 months, over a year, will really push you as far as you can go in your PhD study, rather than working at a hyperactive level only to crash and burn out, taking more time off. Okay, so take advantage of academia being so flexible. Okay, yes, you might be working some evenings, some weekends, but what I would argue is that if you sit down in your desk on a Tuesday morning and you don't feel motivated, you don't feel in the right mindset to write, then compartmentalize that. Okay, go off, do something else, have a walk outside, do something health related, go and do some exercise, go and read a book, go and spend time with family and friends, and then work in an evening or a weekend where you might feel more motivated to do so. My old adage is that if you spend 6 hours working at a time you're not motivated and you can't settle and you can't concentrate, you'll get just the equivalent done than if you spend 2 hours solid working when you are motivated to succeed. So just give that a go and feedback to us in the comments to see if that's ever worked for you. I'd be really interested in knowing. The third point that PhD students often face and worry about is that your research is unimportant. Okay, you might start talking to other people about it, they might phase out, they might not really fully understand your thinking at this really early step. And a lot of the time when you're talking to peers and the rest of your cohort and people that start their PhDs around the same time of you, or family and friends, they might not be able to grasp exactly why you're so excited about this topic and it's a burning passion for you. And that's perfectly fine. Just because other people aren't showing that spark for your research does not mean that your research is unimportant. Okay, now, one thing that you need to know when starting a PhD program is that your research isn't going to, in most cases, your research isn't going to shape the world. Okay, there's going to be lots of things that you have this ambition to do that you just won't have the time or the space or the capacity or the resources or the access to do during your PhD. And it might frustrate you. Remember that your PhD is a journey. It's a learning journey. It's there to develop you as an academic. And as such, you need to be doing the bare bones, but also excelling and becoming an expert in your particular field, your particular niche, which might be really small and constrained. And as such, if you're talking to people and they're glazing over, that doesn't mean that your work is unimportant. It means that perhaps you haven't developed those skills yet to really shape it and disseminate it and talk about it in a way which does allow other people, lay people not in that field at all, to really understand it. And that's going to be your next step. That's going to be your learning development point. And the fourth worry is, especially when you start your PhD alongside a cohort of other PhD students, even if you know them from before or they're new individuals, the fourth worry is that your friends might be ahead of you. Okay, and I think that oftentimes, although it's healthy to have this kind of, minor competition between students because it spurs each of them on, to do their utmost best, it can become a little bit toxic, and I've seen it become toxic in various institutions, whereby two students that start at the same time, one might seem to overtake and stay ahead, or they might be excelling in their particular area. And the student who feels that they're behind starts to internalize that. They start to feel this negative affect, this anxiety, this worry that perhaps they're not getting something that other people are. And again, that is so normal. It happens all of the time. It's important to remember that these are individual journeys. Individual students will have different breaks, different opportunities within those journeys. And it's more so important to remember that a little bit like social media. When somebody puts something out on perhaps Instagram and it's really successful, they're looking amazing, or they've gone on holiday to a really beautiful place. That's only a small part of their life that they're choosing to show. As in an academic journey, just because they're excelling and they are talking about, you know, they've been able to publish this study, they're doing wonderful stuff in areas X, Y, and Z, you don't really know what's going on in the background and under the hood. Okay, they could be having a really difficult time with a different area of academia or a different area of their life altogether. And so don't internalize worry based on one sole aspect that you're observing from a peer. Okay, have the faith that your supervision team are helping shape your PhD journey as best as you all can as a team, and that your work is important and is going in the right direction. Okay, this is not a race. It's important to remember that. And what I would also argue is that having this kind of PhD buddy to be able to bounce ideas off, to be able to get advice, is one of the strengths that any potential PhD student can have. So make sure that you are developing those social networks as and when you're working through your PhD. And the fifth and final worry that kind of crops up quite a lot is that you'll do this work and you won't have any direction after your PhD has come to a close. And that's a very large worry. And I think that every PhD student will feel that to some degree. What I would say here is that your PhD is constructing you as an academic, but also giving you lots of time and space to really have a think about some of the key skills and attributes that you want to develop as an individual. Okay, remember, it's not that 9 to 5. You have this flexibility. You can pick up something perhaps in the background that you want to develop. Perhaps you want to develop social media skills to market your research and dissemination. Okay, perhaps you want to develop this networking skills so that you can start to identify potential collaborators for the future. You might be wanting to take part in research studies, become a research assistant, help work for a charity that you're interested in, that hopefully, you know, is around your PhD thesis idea, but could be in a completely different realm. So make the most of this time, make the most of these opportunities, network, try and get as much experience in different realms as possible, because then when you do come to the close of your PhD and you're looking to see where you can best place yourself, where you can find a job or an opportunity, or whether you want to continue to a postdoctorate, that you've tested the water, you've put your fingers in as many pies as possible, and that you have a better idea of the direction you want to go. And what I would say is that even if you do identify a direction after your PhD and you start walking that journey, it's never too late to take a step off and go a different direction. That's what I did. It was excellent for me. I love the experience I did in my postdoc, and I wouldn't change it for the world, but I'm really happy in the direction that my life's going now. It's in a completely different field, completely different work. But the experiences that I learned from going down that postdoctoral route is pivotal to shaping me as the academic that I have become. So they are your 5 key worries that a PhD student might be considering as they're walking into their PhD program. I hope you've enjoyed this and taken some value from it. Really interested if you can pop down a couple of worries and concerns that you had as a student in the comment section down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and either myself or Craig will see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves.